Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today we're going to have a discussion of grant and funding opportunities from the Environmental Facilities Corporation, the Department of Environmental Conservation, and from Homes and Community Renewal. Um, Jess, can you go to the next slide, please? One sec.
Hang on, technical difficulties. Give us one moment.
Thanks, Jess. Awesome. All right, so for today, we're going to talk briefly about Environmental Facilities Corporation, the Bond Act, the Green Resiliency Grant, and from DEC, their Water Quality Improvement Program, the Non-Agricultural Non-Point Source Planning and MS4 Mapping, HCR, and some other funding sources. And at the end, we will have a brief Q&A session. So we'll ask that if you've got any questions, to please hold them for the end of the presentation. We'll end the recording, and then we can take questions from participants. Next slide, please. So the Environmental Facilities Corporation is a public benefit corporation from the state of New York, and we fund a lot of different projects for the state. The two biggest ones are the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, which offers low-cost capital for sewer and wastewater treatment projects, and has a bunch of short and long-term financing with different interest rates. The Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, which is similar low-cost capital financing, but focuses only on drinking water projects. And lastly, we have the state water grants, specifically through the WIA program, which ease the cost burden of capital infrastructure projects. We've got additional resources that talk about the different funding and, grant and financing that's available. Next slide, please, Jess.
So we have a nation-leading investment. We have provided 37.1 billion. My name is Gabrielle Smith. I'm a program coordinator here at EFC, and I'll go over the next couple of slides. So like I said, we have nation-leading investment. 37.1 billion provided to wastewater projects since 1990. 10.1 billion provided to drinking water projects since 1996, and 2.9 billion in EFC water grants awarded to over 1,000 projects since 2015. In 2022, New Yorkers approved the creation of the Clean Water, Clean Air and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act, usually referred to as Bond Act. And that has meant we've been providing $4.2 billion in investing in New York's environment and communities in order to protect water quality, help communities adapt to climate change, improve wildlife habitats, and create green jobs. $650 million of that investment is for water infrastructure improvement. So just an overview of the Bond Act funding allocation. Once again, 1.5 billion for climate change mitigation, 1.1 billion for restoration and flood risk reduction, 650 million for open space land conservation and recreation, and 650 million also for water quality improvement and resilient infrastructure.
Thanks, Paul and Gabby. Jess, it looks like it advanced a couple slides ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm having a little bit of tech trouble, so bear with me.
While you get back, I'll introduce myself first. I'm Ryan Weitz. I'm a project engineer with EFC's Green Infrastructure and Resiliency Programs unit. Our unit at EFC primarily deals with grant funding for green infrastructure projects, as well as planning grants and others. So as Gabby touched on, the Bond Act provides overall $4.2 billion in funding. And out of the $650 million allotment for water quality improvement, EFC is proud to offer our Green Resiliency Grant Program. So on Earth Day of this year, Governor Hochul announced a second round, another round of $60 million in funding for this program. And in general, the program supports stormwater management projects throughout the state that incorporate green infrastructure to help deal with extreme weather. Next slide, Jess. So round two of the GRG program builds on the program's core mission to support resilient green infrastructure projects that protect water quality and strengthen long-term community resilience. The GRG program is designed to help communities implement transformative green infrastructure solutions while delivering a range of environmental, social, and economic benefits, including helping communities prepare for and respond to the impacts of extreme weather, mitigating localized flooding to better protect homes, businesses, and public infrastructure, reducing and treating stormwater runoff at its source without increasing energy consumption, alleviating urban heat island effects, creating more comfortable and healthier public spaces, restoring habitats and integrating natural systems into the built environment, and enhancing and beautifying streetscapes to attract investment and revitalize neighborhoods. Round two continues to prioritize projects that are transformative, innovative, and aligned with long-term sustainability goals. Next slide. So we'll walk through a couple highlights of round two of the program. So there's a total of $60 million available, similar to round one. Grants will range from a minimum award of $1 million up to a maximum of $10 million per project. And these ranges are meant to provide support for impactful, large-scale green infrastructure initiatives. The program may cover up to 90% of eligible project costs, which significantly reduces the financial burden on applicants. To be eligible, all projects must demonstrate the ability to capture, treat, or slow at least 2,500 cubic feet of stormwater during a 90th percentile rainfall event within a clearly defined drainage area tied to a specific water quality or quantity concern. Projects must show a concentrated impact on a single drainage system. If you're proposing work across multiple unconnected drainage areas, those should be submitted as separate applications. Examples of acceptable, clearly defined drainage areas include the catchment area of a single stormwater outfall or combined sewer overflow, a neighborhood draining to a common low point, or an area contributing to a known flooding hotspot or water quality problem. Additionally, in keeping with the Bond Act priorities, at least 35% of the benefits from this round of funding will be directed to disadvantaged communities, reinforcing our commitment to equity and environmental justice. Next slide. So getting into a little bit more detail on eligible activities and costs, all projects must incorporate green infrastructure stormwater management practices or nature-based solutions to manage combined sewer overflows and or mitigate risks associated with extreme weather events. So as broken down on the screen, these fall into two primary categories, what we call regional and local green stormwater infrastructure. For regional GSI projects, these typically focus on establishing or restoring natural landscape features such as riparian buffers, floodplains, streams, and wetlands. They should be designed to accommodate diverse hydrologic conditions, enhance biologic integrity, and improve water quality. On the local side of green stormwater infrastructure, these are typically urban, focusing on site-specific or neighborhood-scale stormwater practices and include practices such as bioretention, porous pavement, green roofs and walls, tree pits and trenches, and rainwater harvest and reuse systems. Local practices should aim to replicate natural hydrology, reduce effective imperviousness, and reduce or treat runoff from their drainage areas. Whether they're regional or local, all practices proposed under the program must be designed in accordance with the latest version of the New York State Stormwater Management Design Manual. They must consider the entire tributary area, and they must be capable of safely conveying extreme precipitation events. Projects and applications are encouraged to include a combination of eligible practices where appropriate. And note that in order to be eligible for this round, construction must not begin before notification of award and must begin construction no later than July 1st, 2027. Next slide, Jess. On the applicant eligibility side, all applicants must be a municipality or state entity as defined under the Environmental Conservation Law. So this includes the typical municipalities, or what we all think of when we think of municipalities, including counties, cities, towns, and villages, but it also includes school districts, public authorities, public benefit corporations, Native American nations or tribes, and as mentioned, state departments, divisions, agencies, and offices. While nonprofit and non-governmental organizations are not directly eligible to apply, they are encouraged to partner with an eligible applicant to submit an application. In addition, there are a few important eligibility requirements to keep in mind. First, an applicant may have no more than 2 active GRG awards at any one time. A GRG award is considered active from the time funding is awarded through the completion of construction. Note that this only impacts GRG specific awards. So if an applicant has a previous GIGP award or other grants through EFC, this does not apply. It's only if an award was received during the first round of the program. Applicants must also have an ownership interest in the project site and the legal right to access, operate, and maintain the project for its full useful life. If the applicant does not directly own the site, the application must include a clear explanation of how access, operation, and long-term maintenance will be ensured. Finally, applicants that have previously received a GRG or GIGP award are not eligible to apply for funding for the same project. These requirements help ensure that awarded projects are viable, maintainable, and aligned with program goals. Next slide, Jess. We'll talk a little bit about the required documentation required to submit a application. The GRG program is offered through EFC's application portal system, which can be found on our website by going to efc.ny.gov/GRG. But to highlight a couple of the required documents, so all applications, in order to be considered complete, must include the following, the biggest of which is a feasibility study that follows EFC's feasibility study outlines and meets the required minimum standards. That also will include an existing conditions plan showing the current conditions on the project site, a conceptual site plan with relevant sections and details illustrating what is proposed to be done under the program, completed DEC green infrastructure worksheets that will allow you to calculate the total volume benefit of the project and ensure that you are meeting the minimum 2,500 cubic foot requirement, an itemized cost estimate, site photographs, and a signed grant application certification, which must be signed either by the highest elected official or an authorized representative of the applicant organization listed in the application. Together, these documents and the application itself should clearly define the existing problem, outline the proposed solution, and demonstrate that the project is both technically feasible and effectively addresses the identified issue. The completeness, clarity, and quality of this information are critical. It directly influences how applications are evaluated, scored, and ranked for funding consideration. Next slide. All submitted feasibility studies must follow the most recent version of EFC's feasibility study outline. The outline was recently updated, so it's important that applicants use the latest version when preparing their materials. To be considered complete, a feasibility study must meet all of the following minimum standards. It must be current, meaning it was completed within the last 5 years. It must be a final version, not a draft. It must be signed and stamped by a licensed professional engineer or licensed landscape architect. It must clearly identify the problem the project is intended to address and propose a capital improvement project as the solution. It must include an estimate of total project costs, and it must include all required maps figures as outlined in the guidance. If any of these standards are not met, the application will be considered incomplete and will not be evaluated. Applicants should carefully review the updated outline and ensure their feasibility study fully aligns with these expectations to avoid disqualification. Next slide. In addition to the required documents, we strongly encourage applicants to submit any optional supporting documents that help strengthen their funding request. These materials can provide valuable context and detail, enhancing both our understanding of the project and its evaluation. For example, if the project is required under a formal enforcement action or is specifically referenced in a local or regional planning document, please include a copy of that document. If your project is intended to address flooding, consider including documentation of prior flooding events or damage to support the need for the project. Other helpful supporting documents may include executed architectural or engineering service agreements, completed environmental review documentation, or issued permits, all of which help demonstrate project readiness. While these documents are not mandatory, they are directly tied to certain evaluation criteria. If they are not submitted, the application may not receive points in those areas, which can impact the overall score. Next slide. One back, I think. Just want to, as we close out here on the GRG program, before I turn it over to Lauren at DEC to talk about WQIP, we wanted to highlight a couple successful projects from round one of the GRG program. We'll start with a project down in New York City, which is the daylighting of the Tibbetts Brook in the Bronx. So this project received a $10 million grant to reduce combined sewer overflow into the Harlem River. So this will actually daylight a portion of the Tibbetts Brook that historically was enclosed and converted into a combined sewer. So this is going to obviously provide significant water quality benefits, but it also is paired with co-funding to extend a greenway through the Bronx, providing recreational opportunities as well. We highlight a project in the village of Dallsville in the Mohawk Valley. This is a project that the village has been working on for several years. They had a historic flooding event several years ago at around Halloween, I think on Halloween. And the village worked very diligently with homeowners in the village, as well as partners at FEMA, to conduct a buyout process in which they acquired several houses along the East Canada Creek in order to buy those houses from the property owners through FEMA's program and demolish those houses that had been flooded periodically throughout the history of the village. They are now proposing to develop a waterfront park that will be a combination of an enhanced floodplain while incorporating local green infrastructure practices in the park as well. So another project that incorporates water quality benefits with extreme weather protections and community benefits. And the last one we touch on is in the Hudson Valley in Hastings-on-Hudson. This is a project that we highlight that the village has been working on for several years and conducted a village-wide flood study looking at areas of localized flooding. This in particular, this area, the village experiences flash flooding due to the Buteliers Brook and flooding out people's backyards and basements. And the village is proposing to implement a wet extended detention pond. So a project that sometimes is not able to be funded under other programs, but with its direct nexus to addressing flooding concerns, which was included in the application. We're excited to be able to fund these projects as well as others through round one. So that concludes my portion, and I'll turn it over to Lauren at DEC.
Great, thanks, Ryan. My name is Lauren Townley, and I'm a section chief with the DEC Division of Water, based in the Albany office. Today, I'm going to talk about two different funding programs that we have available. First is the Water Quality Improvement Project Grant Program, also known as WQIP. And the second is the Non-Agricultural Non-Point Source Planning and MS4 Mapping Grant, which we call NPG. Both of these programs are released annually as part of the state's consolidated funding application, which is open for applications now. And the deadline for applications is July 31st at 4 p.m. Next slide. So first I'm going to talk about the WQIP program. I'm going to go to the next slide. WQIP is a statewide competitive reimbursement grant program for projects that will directly improve water quality or habitat, promote flood risk reduction, restoration, and enhance flood resiliency, or protect a drinking water source. This year we have at least $75 million available. Applicants can submit up to 5 applications for different projects, and the required local match is 25%. So dollar amounts are based on the New York State budget and appropriations. So we are pulling from a couple different funding sources, including the Clean Water Infrastructure Act, the Environmental Protection Fund, the Bond Act that was mentioned earlier, as well as some federal watershed specific funding for Lake Champlain and Long Island Sound. The maximum award max varies depending on the project type, so it ranges from $100,000 up to $15 million under our wastewater category. And again, match is based on the award amount, not the total project cost, and 25% is required for all project types. And WQIP has 3 types of eligible applicants. We have municipalities, soil and water conservation districts, and not-for-profits. Just to note that not-for-profits are only eligible for a subset of our categories. And so that's limited to the source water protection, dam safety, aquatic connectivity, marine district habitat, and fish and wildlife habitat categories. And this is a slide just showing all of the different eligible project types we have this year. There are 9 different types. I'm going to focus on the stormwater related ones under the non-agricultural non-point source abatement and control category, as well as the vacuum trucks and municipal separate storm sewer system or MS4 areas. So starting with the non-agricultural non-point source abatement and control, we have a couple of subtypes within this category that are related to stormwater. So in particular, the green infrastructure practices subtype, as well as the stormwater retrofit categories are ones to look out for if you're looking to address stormwater issues. I'll also note that we have a program category. So this is for practices that are happening at more than one location or within a defined geographic area. And an example of a program would be a rain garden or rain barrel program in a CSO area. The next project type is for the purchase of a vacuum truck to be used in a regulated MS4 area. So eligible applicants include municipalities that are regulated by our MS4 general permit, as well as soil and water conservation districts that are working on behalf of regulated MS4 operators. Just to note that we highly encourage shared services of vacuum trucks. So municipalities that are coming in as a collaborative will receive additional points in our scoring criteria. I just wanted to make a note of all the required application documents. So for all project types, we require a budget worksheet, project map. If the project or the vac truck will be stored in a floodplain, we require a floodplain map. And then there are 2 forms that are required, including the Sexual Harassment Prevention Certification Form and the Executive Order 16 Certification Form. All of these are due at the time of application within the Consolidated Funding Application portal. And then there are some additional project type specific requirements that you can refer to on our website that are also listed in our program overview for the grant. Next, I'm going to cover the Non-Agricultural Non-Point Source Planning and MS4 Mapping Grant, or MPG. So there are two different project types within this grant, both with the goal of preparing projects to apply for WQIP or other funding for implementation. So the first is for developing planning reports for non-point source water quality improvement projects. And then the second is for the mapping of regulated MS4 systems. This year we have up to $3 million available, and there's a 10% local match. Applicants can submit up to 5 applications for the planning reports or 1 application for MS4 mapping. And eligible applicants for this grant include municipalities and Soil and Water Conservation District. The maximum grant award will vary depending on the planning report type. It's $50,000 for planning reports. Otherwise, it's up to $75,000 for comprehensive stream corridor studies. And again, just wanted to highlight the 2 stormwater related categories, so the green infrastructure and stormwater retrofits. Again, these are design or engineering studies that prepare projects for implementation. So it could help prepare a project for implementation if you're applying for the WQIP program or for some of the EFC programs, including the GRG. You just have to make sure that you're aware of the different eligibility requirements or the outlines that are required. So Ryan had showed a link to the required feasibility study outline. They are very closely aligned, but just making sure that you notice that there are some discrepancies between the two. But if you did apply for a planning report under this grant, it would get you very close to needing to meet that feasibility required for EFC's programs. And then I'll just touch on the MS4 mapping. Again, if municipalities are applying alone, the maximum award amount is $75,000. If they are utilizing shared services for mapping and coming in as a collaborative, the maximum award is $400,000. And the output of an MS4 mapping grant would be producing a GIS product. That would be the final mapping of the system, as well as a summary report. The mapping must meet the permit requirements in the MS4 general permit and be either creating, using, or expanding GIS mapping. There are different levels of mapping that can be completed under an MS4 mapping grant. We do require that basic elements be mapped before getting into the intermediate or advanced mapping elements, but all of that is outlined in the program overview as well as the information on our website. And just some general information and tips. So DEC is encouraging planning and implementation projects that reduce flood risk, enhance flood resiliency, and increase the resiliency of effects from climate change. So we do review projects with criteria related to climate resilience as well as flood resilience. And I just want to make a note that if your project is wholly or partially within the floodplain, make sure you send in a floodplain map to show the location of your project. We have a tutorial video as well as a guidance document on how to find your floodplain map and produce the map that's required for the applications. And there are additional contract requirements. So if you do get awarded funding under our grant programs, you would have to meet specific flood resiliency requirements at the time of contract or as part of the project development. And if there's any questions that you have, we can take them today, but if you have any later on, feel free to email us at dowgrants@dec.ny.gov and be sure to visit our website. We have a lot of important resources that are linked directly on our website, as well as the program overviews and those instructional videos that I just mentioned. So we have instructional videos related to our budget, as well as floodplain mapping and disadvantaged community and environmental justice community mapping as well. And that's it for me.
My turn. My name is Steve Golding. I'm a project manager for community development block grants with Homes and Community Renewal. Next slide, please. New York State receives community development block grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. This funding is intended to ensure that communities throughout the state are viable by providing decent housing and suitable living environments, principally for low and moderate income persons. At least 70% of New York State CDBG funds must be used for activities benefiting low and moderate income persons, meaning that they are at or below 80% of the area's median income as defined by HUD. CDBG activities must also meet the following national objectives as defined by HUD. These activities must benefit low and moderate income persons or families, aid in the prevention and elimination of slum and blight, and meet an urgent community development need. Next slide, please. So this is a map of eligible areas. As you can see, usually MSA areas like New York and Erie County, they receive entitlement funding already. Next slide, please. This is a breakdown of the type of activities that CDBG can fund. In terms of this webinar, if you were to come in for a public storm collection or treatment project, you would come in under public infrastructure, or if you're intending to and you're an eligible community, you could come in through the community planning and decide, if you were going to come in for a future grant. Next slide. These are our funding amounts for stormwater projects. 1.5 million is the amount without co-funding in place. If there's co-funding, 2 million is the eligible amount. I will say that if you are going to come in without co-funding, CDBG does want to see that that other opportunities were pursued in funding. Next slide. Oh. For more information, you can reach out to ocrinfo@hcr.ny.gov.
Thank you very much, Steve. We just want to
Yeah.
briefly touch on a couple of other stormwater funding opportunities that we're not going to be covering in detail here. First, New York Department of State has a local waterfront revitalization, or the LWRP program, and they also have a coastal rehabilitation program. These are specifically cover a lot of the areas that the other grants don't cover in terms of usually coastal issues. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, in addition to the WQIP programs they covered earlier, also has a Resilient Watersheds Grant, or the RWG program, sometimes pronounced as RWIG, and it also has the Climate Smart Communities grant as well. If you're interested in more information, I highly encourage you to check out the Department of State or the DEC websites for more information on these programs. And to round out our presentation, we'll touch briefly on the Community Assistance Teams, or CATs. So the community assistance teams were established by Governor Hochul to enhance EFC's technical assistance program. They focus on helping communities, particularly small and rural ones, access funding for water infrastructure projects. So we work alongside several partner agencies that you've heard from in this presentation already, but especially the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Health, State, and the Office of Homes and Community Renewal. And together we will set up consultations to identify the best funding opportunities for your specific project needs. So if you have any questions or are interested in any types of funding, I highly recommend setting up a consultation with us. You can request a meeting with CATS through the request a meeting form on our website, or by email or by phone. And it is best to reach out with sort of a rough idea what type of you know what type of programs you're interested in, so we can best assist in getting you set up properly. Next slide, please.
And be sure to sign up for our emails to be notified for grant announcements, webinars, events, and other deadlines that EFC and our partners have coming up. And we just want to thank you for joining us today. We'll stop the recording. Oh, these are the email addresses you can send questions to about our CWSRF programs, our health programs, and then our website. We're going to stop the recording and then we'll open it up to questions.